Okay, this is a video to walk you through the 18 questions of the PSAT practice test for the 2012-2013 school year. So here we go. The first question, question 21, says, this is section 4, asks you how many pairs of parallel lines there are. Well, when we look at this, the first thing I want to do is I got some 90-degree angles. I can mark one here, and I can mark one here. And that tells me, and the reason I have that is because of vertical angles here. And what that tells me is that H and K are parallel because the alternate, nope, wait, that's not the reason. The reason is because consecutive interior angles here are supplementary. We have two 90-degree angles. They're consecutive interiors because they are both inside the parallel lines, and they're consecutive because they are one right after another. Because these add up to 180, H and K are parallel. Right, now the other things that look parallel are J and L. So let's take a look at J and L. J and L look like they're parallel, and I see these two 90-degree angles, one here and one here, and they prove that J and L are parallel because those two red 90-degree angles I just marked, those are consecutive, not consecutive, they are corresponding angles. Because they are corresponding angles, J and L are parallel. So the answer is 2. P isn't parallel to anything, and M isn't parallel to anything. Question 22. If today is Sunday, what day will it be 50 days from now? Well, the first thing I want to do is see how many weeks that is. So I'm going to divide 7 into 50, and that goes in 7 times. And there is 1 left over. So from Sunday, this is really 7 weeks plus an extra day, because we got that 1 remainder. So 7 weeks makes it Sunday again, plus 1 extra day makes it Monday. Question 43. The graph above shows for various temperatures what % of the fluid in a car's radiator should be antifreeze in order to protect the radiator from freezing. At negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit, approximately what % of the fluid should be antifreeze? So what we want to do is we want to go to negative 20 degrees and go across. When we hit the scatter plot, it's about 40. So we want to go with D, 40 degrees. Question 24. M and N represent digits in the 2 decimals listed above. One of the decimals is equivalent to 1/4, and the other is equivalent to 1/2. What is the sum of M and N? Well, if one of them is equivalent to 1/4, one of them has to be equal to 0.25. And it can't be M because there's no 5 here, it has to be N. So this is the one that's 1/4. So this is the one that's 1/4. And so that means that N is 2. So that means 1/2, which is 0.5, that's point M. So M is 5. And then if I add together 2 and 5, I get 7. Question 25. The radius of circle A is 100. And the circumference of circle A is twice the circumference of circle B. What is the radius of circle B? Well, we're going to say, so we know that the circumference of circle A, so I'm going to call that C sub A, is equals twice the circumference of circle B. I'm going to call that circle B. Now, I know that the circumference of circle A is 2 pi r. Now, remember, that formula is, there it is, right there, 2 pi r for circumference. So 2 pi and radius is 100. And now for circle B, we have 2 pi and we don't know the radius. When we go to solve our equation, the pi's will cancel out. I can divide both sides by pi. And 2 times 100 is 200. So the radius of circle B must be E 200. Wait a second. Hold on. I think I might have a mistake. Yep, I made a mistake. Here's how I realized I made a mistake. If the circumference of circle A is twice the circumference of circle B, that means it actually has to be bigger. So I'm going to go about this a different way. So we can find the circumference of circle A using our equation 2 pi r. And that makes 200 pi the circumference of A. Now, I know that this is twice the circumference of circle B. So if this is twice the circumference of circle B has to have a circumference of 100 pi. That makes the circumference of B smaller, because circle A needs to be twice the circumference of circle B. So 100 pi equals 2 pi r, and the pi's cancel, and that makes the radius for circle B 50. I want to point out, I screwed that one up at first, and the reason I noticed is as soon as I circled 300, I was like, wait a second, how can if the circumference of circle A is bigger, how can the radius of circle A be smaller? And that's where I went back and rethought about the problem for a second. If k is an integer greater than 1, which of the following correctly orders the three quantities from least to greatest? Well, because they tell you that k is an integer greater than 1, this is going to be true for any integer. So I'm just going to pick a number. Since it's greater than 1, it needs to be an integer. I'm going to pick k is 2. So if k is 2, that gives me the square root of 2 squared plus 1, which is the square root of 5. And I know that the square root of 5 is 2 point something, because it's a little bigger than the square root of 4, which is 2. Then the square root of k squared plus 1. Well, square root of 2 squared is just 2, and then 2 plus 1 is 3. So they're already in order. K, then the square root of k squared plus 1, and then the square root of k squared with the plus 1 outside. So the answer is A. Number 27. The figure above shows the graphs of the functions f and g. 4 points are indicated on the graph of f, and the x-coordinates of these points are A, B, C, and D. How many of the indicated points have an x-coordinate such that the absolute value of f of x is the absolute value of g of x is greater than f of x? So let's go through these points one at a time. At A, they have the same value, the same y value. So these are the same. We go to B. For f of x, we can see it's a 2. And for g of x, I don't know, we'll say it looks like about 2.5, negative 2.5. Okay, but for B, because we're looking for the absolute value of g of x, the absolute value of negative 2.5 is bigger than 2, so that's 1. We'll circle it. Then we go to C. C, f of x is clearly below g of x. So C, again, g of x is bigger. D, we see g of x is down here, f of x is up here. Which one's further from D? F of x, so that one doesn't work either. The answer is 2, C. Question 28. If k is a constant such that x minus 2 and x plus 2 are factors of the polynomial 100x squared plus k, what is the value of k? If I multiply together these two binomials, x minus 2 times x plus 2, I get x squared plus 2x minus 2x minus 4, which gives me x squared minus 4. Now, if I'm going to multiply k by this, oh, yeah. Well, no, that's not what I'm going to do. Sorry. Eraser. Okay, so if this is now a factor of 100x squared plus k, that means that something else times x squared minus 4 has to equal this. So let's think. Obviously there's a 100 here. So if I did 100 times x squared minus 4, I would get 100 x squared minus 400. Now 100 x squared minus 400 does factor such a way that, because these, remember, I got from multiplying together, that x minus 2 and x plus 2 are factors. So k is negative 400. I love this question. Super fun. On the number line, what number is halfway between? Well, here's 0.3. Here is 0.4. Halfway in the middle is going to be 0.35. This is a gridding question, so let me get some grids. Okay. Now that I have my grid, I can grid the number 0.35. And because I'm going to need 3 boxes to put the number 0.35 in, I'm just going to start at the beginning. It really doesn't matter as long as the decimal, the 3, and the 5 are all touching. And I want to make sure I only have one number in each box. Remember, the SATs aren't going to grade what you write in the boxes, only what you grid. But I do recommend you write the numbers up top so that you don't accidentally just go straight down and do like 0.35. That would be terrible. Question 30. Each year from January 1 through January 8th, the number of daily visitors C at a music store is estimated by C equals 1,200 plus 2 to the x, where x is the day of the month. How many more customers are estimated to be at the music store on January 5th than January 1st? This is a pretty straightforward problem. All we need to do is plug in the correct x values. January 1 means that x equals 1. So I'm going to go, you can use your calculator, or 2 to the first is just 2. So we've got 1,202. January 5th, x is 5. X 2 to the 5th is 32. So we've got 1,232. So how many more customers on January 5th? Well, we can see that minus is 30. So we're going to put in 30 in our grid. You don't need to do 0.00. 30 is fine. Okay. In triangle ACD above, BE is parallel to CD, and the length of AB is 2/3 the length of AC. If the length of AD is 12, what is the length of AC? Well, it says that AB is 2/3 the length of AC, so we know that AB is 2/3 AC. We know the length of AD. Where's AD? Here. AD is 12. Because we are given that BE and CD are parallel, the proportion of AB to AC is going to be the same for the proportion of AE to AD. So that means that, because we have similar triangles here, these parallel lines create consecutive angles that are congruent. So we have these two angles that are obviously congruent, and then obviously A is congruent to itself, which means our triangles are proportional. So if AB is 2/3 AC, that means that AE is 2/3 AD. And we're given the length of AD is 12. And then 2/3 times 12 is 8. So the answer is 8. Question 32. If k is a positive integer between 0 and 60, what is one possible value for k for which the square root of k plus 7 minus 5 is a positive integer? All right, now there are going to be a couple different possibilities here. Because we want this amount to be positive, whatever comes out of the square root has to be bigger than 5. So we need the square root of this to be bigger than 5, which means we need k plus 7, that's a 7, to be bigger than 5. Oop, wait a minute, let me back this up. This needs to be bigger than 5, so this needs to be bigger than 25. That wouldn't work. We need this to be bigger than 25. So what we're going to do is if we subtract 7 from both sides, we would get k has to be greater than or equal to, well, 25 minus 7 is 18. So let me show you what I mean. So if I put, and k has to be a positive integer. So I can't put 18 here. It's got to be something bigger than 18. So like if we put 19 in, that would be the square root of 19 plus 7 minus 5. 19 plus 7 is 26.
DJ Neil will come to the main office.
Silly PA. And then the square root of 26, that's bigger than 5. So if I subtract 5 from that, I get it has to be a positive integer. Oh, that's not going to work. Good thing I reread the question. So 19 is not going to work. So let's think. It's got to be bigger than 19, and it has to be a positive integer. So let's think. This is going to be a guess and check. So we need this to be a perfect square. So after 25, the next perfect square is going to be 26. I'm sorry, 36. So if I need k plus 7 can be 36, which means that k can be 29. And then, because it needs to be a positive integer, we can do k plus 7. Well, the next perfect square after 36 would be 49. So that means k could be 42. After 49, 8 squared would be k plus 7. Could be 64. And that means that k could be 57. Now, I'm not going to go up to 81 because if I do that, k would be 74, and that's too big because I only want numbers between 0 and 60. So you have a choice. You can bubble 29, you can bubble 42, or you could bubble 57. If the length of a rectangular parking lot is 3 times its width, and its perimeter is 840 yards, what is the length of the parking lot in yards? Okay, we want to remember that perimeter is equal to 2 lengths plus 2 widths. And because it tells us that the length is 3 times the width, you want to think to yourself, which one is bigger? Well, the width is bigger. No, it's not. I'm lying. We'll make length equal to length and width equal to width. And we'll make and we know that the length is 3 times the width. Now we're going to go and plug that in. And so and we know the perimeter is 840. So that's going to be 2 times 3w plus 2w. So this becomes 840 plus 6, equals 6w plus 2w. 840 equals 8w. And if we divide by 8, we get we get w equals 105. It wants to know what is the length. So we're not going to grid 105, we're going to grid 3 times 105 because the length is 3 times the width. So that makes the length 315. Question 34. If x equals 5 in the equation above, y is how much greater than x? Well, that means that 3y equals 4 times 5, and 3y equals 20. We know that y equals, divided by 3, 20/3. It wants to know how much greater it is than x. So 20/3 I need to subtract 5 from to find out how much bigger it is than x. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to do this without a calculator because I don't have one with me. So I'm going to go 20/3 minus, I'm going to multiply this by 3 over 3 and make it 15/3. So my answer is 5/3. Now, I'm not going to think about 20/3 as 6 2/3 because I can't grid an answer that's a mixed number. I can only grid an improper fraction or a decimal. So I'm going to grid 5/3. The Venn diagram above refers to 250 students and their extracurricular activities. Each student participates in at least one of the 3 kinds of activities shown. Of all of the students who participate in sports, how many of them also participate in drama? The first thing I need to do is figure out how many kids participate in all 3. If you add up all the numbers here, you get 230. That means that x has to be 20 in order for the whole Venn diagram to add up to 250. So it's asking us, of the students who participate in sports, how many of them also participate in drama? So I'm only looking at of the sports kids, how many participate in drama? So I'm looking for the overlap here. And it would be 21 plus x, and since we know x is 20, the answer is 41. Question 36. The 20 numbers in list A have an average or an arithmetic mean of 9.5. The 10 numbers in list B have an average of 8.3. If the 2 lists are combined to make a new list, what is the average of the 30 numbers in the new list? Well, to find the average of list A, I would have to add up list A. So the sum of all the list A numbers, sum of list A, I'm missing some letters there. Sum of, and there are, how many? 20. And that has an average of 9.5. If I multiply both sides by 20, I get all the numbers in list A to add up to, I don't know, time to grab a calculator, would be 190. I'm going to do the same thing, and the sum of list B, which only has 10 people in it, or 10 numbers in it, was 8.3. If I multiply both sides by 10, now I get that list B has a total of 83 if I added up all the numbers in list B. So A and B together, have 30 numbers. So to find the new average, I would add 190 plus 83 and divide that by 30. So I'm going to take 273 divided by 30, and I'm going to get 9.1. So that is the new average. A company labels its products with a 3-character letter code. Each code consists of 2 letters, not necessarily different, from the 26 letters in the English alphabet, followed by 1 digit as shown above. What is the total number of such codes that are available for the labeling of the company's product? Well, so the pattern here is it's going to do a letter, and then another letter, and then a digit. Well, there are 26 letters in the alphabet, so I have 26 choices for my letter. I could pair that up with another letter. It can be any letter I want. So I'm going to write another 26 down. If I multiply 26 times 26, if you guys remember, at some point in your career you made these lovely tree diagrams. If I made a tree diagram like A, B, C, D, and then off each branch I was like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, 26 times 26 is 676. That means I would have 676 of these little tiny branches. I'm going to multiply that by 10 digits because I could off each 676 tiny branches, like for AA, I could now do 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. When I multiply 26 times 26 times 10, I get 6,760. Bubble it in, 6,700. Okay. Last question in this section. 38. The volume of a cube P is 10. If the length of an edge of a cube Q is 4 times the length of an edge of a cube P, what is the volume of cube Q? Alright, I'm going to let S equal the side of a cube, of the cube. Ooh, that was B. We're going to let S equal the side of cube P. And that means the volume of cube P is going to be S cubed because you multiply length times width times height. And we know the volume is 10. That means the side would be 10 to the 1/3 power, or the cube root of 10. I don't really need to know that, but that's okay. I know that the edge of cube Q is 4 times the length of the edge of cube P. So that means 4S is going to be the side of cube Q. So that means if I take 4S and cube that, that would be the volume of Q. And 4 cubed is 64. I don't need this, I'm going to scratch it out. Okay, so the question is asking us, what is the volume of cube Q? Now, I already know that S cubed is 10, right here. It says S cubed is 10, because that's the volume. So what I'm going to do for cube Q is I'm just going to multiply 64 times 10, and we get 640.